Thank you. Good evening. This is the uh, January 9th, 2025. This is the duly noticed meeting of the Appeals Hearing Officer. Uh, My name is Frank Nakamura. I'm the duly appointed Appeals Officer, Hearings Officer. I want to acknowledge that there have been no ex parte communications or conflicts of interest other than communications with the city just for procedural reasons. There's been no substantive discussion. We move to business item 2.0. That's 2.1, Project AHO 24007. Consideration of a request by John and Rebecca Love for an addition to their residence at 8378 South Austrian Way. The proposed addition constitutes an expansion of a non-conforming structure as the existing home is legally non-conforming in terms of rear setback measurements. City, please introduce yourself for the record. We'll have the city make their presentation.
Yeah, so it's Ian Harris, planner. I guess I'll just jump right into it. Matt, is everything looking good on the stream? Okay, all right. I will go through the presentation fairly quickly. I assume you've had a chance to review the packet.
I have, and thank you for reminding me. So what I have reviewed and received is the application with some drawings and plans from the applicant, and then also a staff report prepared by the city's Economic Development Office.
So yeah, I'll run through the presentation. It's kind of an abridged version of that staff report. So if you want me to elaborate on anything, or if you have questions for me or the applicant, just let me know.
Thank you.
So this expansion of a non-conforming structure is for a single-family home in an R18 typical single-family residential neighborhood in the city. John Love, the applicant, one of the applicants, is here today to speak on the project. It's a fairly straightforward expansion of a non-conforming deck, and I'll just kind of run through what that constitutes now. So just to provide some context, and I've got a bigger satellite image on the next slide. The applicant is requesting approval to add a second story to a non-conforming deck in the rear yard of their property. The deck is non-conforming because it protrudes into that rear yard setback there. You can see it's fairly close to the property line there. It's about 10 feet. Based on the historic satellite imagery that we could gather, this deck has existed in its current footprint since at least before the city was incorporated in 2005. And non-conforming setbacks are fairly common for any home built or added onto in Cottonwood Heights prior to our incorporation. Because the deck is attached to the primary structure and it projects more than 18 inches or 1.5 feet above ground, it is subject to the same primary building setbacks that their, that their home would be for this R18 zone. So this is kind of a more extensive satellite image. You can see towards the back of the property, it's just a vacant lot until you hit Danish Road there. And then to the side and the front, there's kind of their neighborhood. So it's mostly vacant land in the rear that it encroaches on the setback near. And then this provides some additional context. You can see that their deck is like fairly elevated off the ground. So it's definitely more than 18 inches. You can see there's a pergola that's been added onto there over time as well. But the deck alone constitutes a non-conforming structure as it exists within the setback. So their request, I split up in the staff report and in this presentation into three separate parts. A steps expansion, a second story deck, which is kind of the bread and butter of this, and then a spiral staircase that's not shown on this rendering here, but that the applicant has provided some example plans for. So I'll just kind of go through each of these now, and then we'll talk about the analysis. So the first one is just the expansion of the steps. Basically, they want to remove the kind of where that red triangle is. There's some steps that kind of cut diagonal there, and they would like to add steps where that green rectangle is. So it's kind of a technical expansion there, but they're really just relocating some steps over, probably just for function and aesthetic purposes, and it encroaches in the setback. So that is one element. And then the main element that they're asking for approval here is just the second story deck. You saw in that rendering, the applicant wishes to construct a second story deck that kind of mirrors the footprint of the existing first story deck, excluding the area taken up by the steps. and it would be about 15 feet from the property line based on the applicant's site plan. And then the spiral staircase, I kind of just did a rough site plan here that included the spiral staircase, just where that circle is pointed to there. Their primary goal in constructing this deck is to increase the safety during the fire escape. And so they want to include a spiral staircase that would lead people from the second story to the ground a lot quicker than going through the house, and a lot safer if there's a fire inside. They haven't selected a model or exact location yet, to my knowledge, but they stated that the diameter of the staircase would be no wider than 5 feet, so it's fairly minor. And then it would be located approximately where that figure is showing it. This is just an example of the staircase. I'm not sure if the applicant's come any closer to selecting what they would exactly like to install there, but this is roughly what that would look like. And so the staff analysis, yeah, again, it just expands the nonconformity in those three aspects. This would require approval from the appeals hearing officer because it's encroaching in setback. I will note that they submitted a site plan that shows a larger rear yard, a greater setback than the Salt Lake County Assessor parcel viewer does. Both of these site plans and the parcel viewer map are approximations. So we would include in our staff report a recommended condition of approval that the applicant would obtain a survey or otherwise just provide clear certified evidence to show exactly where that property line is. We think it's in their best interest to do that in order to ensure that the measurements shown on their site plan are accurate. This is just some stuff on the authority under the code of you to approve this kind of addition. And then this is our recommendation. I won't go through each of these individual points, but we've found that the proposed addition doesn't increase the degree of nonconformity of the structure, and it's pretty reasonable effort to modify an existing home. So we recommend approval. This is our recommended condition of approval. I won't read it out, but I can flip back and forth to the slide if you need me to, and then here are the model motions. So with that, I'll turn the time back.
Oh, yeah, so on the north side, there's no issues with the north side where the spiral staircase is going, is that right, in terms of the setback?
It wouldn't. I think that the issue with the spiral staircase would be that it may be within the setback. It depends on where exactly that rear property line exists, but not with the north side setback.
Spiral staircase would not be but it'd be in the north side. It wouldn't be in the rear setback, right?
It may, depending
may?
on exactly where that line is, but the applicant's site plan is showing that it's out of that setback.
Okay, thank you.
So. Okay. So it may encroach on the west side, the rear yard setback, but I think the north it's well outside the north setback.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Harris.
You're welcome.
The applicant, can you want to make a presentation or state anything? And please state your name and address for the record.
John Love, 8378 South Austrian Way. I believe Ian covered it all pretty well. Like you said, the main purpose is the deck, the upper level will be located right next to the children's bedroom. So if there's say a fire that they can't come down the main staircase, I feel much more comfortable with my 6-year-old going out the back and down a staircase than vice trying to do a rope ladder out of the window. But other than that, yeah, when we bought the house in 2019, the deck was existing with the pergola, and so essentially the plan is just to add a roof and a top to the pergola with a staircase coming down.
You're aware of one of the conditions that the staff has at least recommended is that you provide a survey or a certification by a licensed professional. Apparently, there's some discrepancy with the county records regarding the rear yard measurements. Are you okay with that condition?
I mean, I'm okay with it if it's going to get approved. I don't know if it's actually necessary. I think we should be going the conservative route, which Ian recommended. We'll get approval because it's really the staircase, I guess, is the kind of the new addition to it that would impinge upon the setback in the west side there. I think we should just get approval for that, and then maybe not go through the hassle of trying to get an assessment done.
But you would be okay, I mean, if that.
Yeah, if that's what it took, then sure.
Anything more, Mr. Love?
No, unless there's any questions for me, then that's all I would have to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Richards, I mean, Mr. Harris, Richard. Mr. Harris, so the condition of requiring or asking for a survey,
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a little reluctant to do that. Could you just explain to me why you feel that that's something that the city needs or?
I think when I was reviewing the project, I noticed a discrepancy between the applicant's site plan and the assessor's map, and both are approximations. We're not sure how much the staircase would infringe on that. A survey is really the only way to tell. Maybe Mike can add more to that, but that's kind of where that recommendation comes from.
But it wouldn't change any, I mean, as far as I am concerned as the hearing officer, it wouldn't change anything if there is a slight discrepancy even, because the issue is whether or not the nonconformity is increased.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to state that for the record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, anything more? Closed discussion. So based upon staff report and the information that I've received from the applicant, their appeals hearing officer finds there is no evidence that the construction of the additions as proposed would impose any unreasonable burden on the properties within the vicinity of the applicant's home. The proposed additions do not increase the degree of nonconformity of the home, and the construction of the proposed additions is in keeping with the intent of the code. Those purposes of the code have been stated in the staff report and will be part of the record. So with that, hearing officer authorizes a permit to the applicant to construct additions to the applicant's non-conforming home as proposed, but subject to the following conditions. That prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide a survey or certification by a licensed professional to verify the location of the property line in the site plans that they had presented, and that they obtain a building permit from the city and comply with all of the city requirements. Questions? But again, emphasizing that what I'm finding is that it does not increase the nonconformity and that it doesn't create a burden on the surrounding properties. So if there's a slight discrepancy, I mean, that will be resolved between you and the city. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Love. Item number 2 is the minutes. And I will approve the minutes from the January 9, 2025 hearing, subject to, of course, once they're prepared, and they will be submitted to me for review, and any minor changes or suggestions that I make will be incorporated into those minutes. So they are deemed approved. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.